The Irish Taoiseach says he hopes his country can resume using the AstraZeneca vaccine by the end of this week. The pause is a blow to an already sluggish vaccine rollout. Ireland is slightly ahead of the rest of the EU, but of course lags well behind the UK, the United States and Israel. Ireland's also still in the midst of one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. I spoke to the Prime Minister, Micheál Martin, and I asked him how much further behind the AstraZeneca delay is going to leave Ireland and Europe.
In the context of this decision, about 30,000 vaccinations were about to be given, AstraZeneca vaccinations this week. We would like this to be brought to a conclusion, hopefully, by the end of the week, and that we could catch up fairly quickly in respect of those vaccinations that have had to be postponed.
There's a nasty dispute brewing within the EU between member countries and potentially with the Commission over what has happened with AstraZeneca, the purchasing of it, those countries like yourselves which decided to front load towards AstraZeneca. Do you feel that you are being punished is perhaps a slightly strong word, but by voting or deciding to go for the AstraZeneca rather than the other as part of your allocation?
No, not really at all. I mean, we went for a mixed basket of vaccines, to use that phrase, and Europe did, and I think that was a correct policy. And we at the moment we're administering Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, and had been up to Sunday the AstraZeneca. I think there were production and manufacturing issues with AstraZeneca, and AstraZeneca has not been in a position to fulfil its European contract to date. It acknowledges that. I spoke with the CEO myself last Friday evening. He identified issues in terms of yields from some of the plants where the vaccines meant for Europe were being manufactured. And there's been ongoing engagement between the European Commission and AstraZeneca in relation to how it can get up to speed in terms of meeting its commitments to Europe.
What would you say to someone in Europe, in Ireland, who says all we've heard from the European side is a series of reasons, maybe justifiable ones, but a series of reasons about why the authorization was later than everybody else, why the rollout is slower than everybody else, the distribution is more confused, and now an allocation that seems to penalise some countries who made early decisions. Whatever the individual reasons, the perception is that Europe has dropped the ball.
Well, I think the perception is there. I think the more fundamental issue has been around manufacture and production of vaccines, actually. And I think if you stand back, within 10 months, the world has enabled the development, particularly in Europe and the United States, of 4 vaccines, for example, now that are very effective, right, and impactful on the virus. Now, compared to a decade ago, that's an incredible achievement. And the issue, perhaps, where Europe could have concentrated more on was on the production side and on the manufacturing side.
This morning, the European Commission launched legal action against the British over the UK's plans to delay implementing part of the protocol on Northern Ireland. Do you support the action being taken by the Commission, bearing in mind it'll be months, if not several years, before there's a resolution? So in any case, there would have to be a negotiated settlement, and I wonder what's the purpose of the litigation?
I do support the decision taken by the European Union and the European Commission. It had no option. We believe in a rules-based approach as a country in terms of international relations, and an agreement has been arrived at. Admittedly, it's only 2.5 months in operation. Britain has left the European Union. There's a withdrawal agreement there. There's a trade and cooperation agreement. Everybody should abide by those rules. There's mechanisms within the agreement, the joint committee and the specialised committees, to resolve any issues, particularly in relation to the protocol. Those mechanisms should be utilised to the full. I don't agree with a unilateral approach. We've been here before in terms of the Internal Markets Bill. It ultimately got resolved. It was withdrawn. In my view, what the unilateral approach does is it erodes trust. And trust is the only basis for constructive relationships and engagement, and particularly between the European Union and the United Kingdom. And I want a strong relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union. I also want a strong relationship between the United Kingdom and Ireland. And I think that has to be on the basis of trust. And I think these unilateral moves don't help that.
If we look at your economy, and we look at all the economies, I mean, even allowing for the recovery fund from the Union, it's going to take the next generation and the generation after that to dig us out, or to dig themselves out, over the huge debts and damage being done by this, isn't it? There's not much more one can really do.
Well, the pandemic is having a very significant economic impact, but decision makers and governments around the world have to respond to that, and I think are doing that. I think the President Biden's $1.9 trillion injection, will be significant and will help US recovery and world recovery. European Union's $1.8 trillion recovery and resilience fund on top of the member states' additional funds, I think will help economic recovery. I think, we can be fatalistic about things, but on the other, I would take a different approach. I think there could very well be a rebound, but we also have to reposition economies and societies into the future. So there will have to be a strong focus on the green economy and on digital transformation. And those are two themes that Ireland, along with Europe, will be focusing in on, particularly in our national economic recovery plan as we emerge from COVID-19.